Okay, what had happened was there was this meteor in Trump and something about allergies. That's why I've been away for a while. Hey gang, Tim here. I'll talk if you listen. Episode 66. 66. Hey, let me make sure. It's been so long. Been so long. Pretty sure this is episode 66. Let me double check. Yes, 66. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. I guess you should be saying that to me, right? Welcome back. I'm back, and I'm just going to apologize. I think it was Ben Franklin who said, never ruin a good apology with a poor excuse. I'm back. And what have I been up to? So if you follow me on social media, here's the benefit. If you follow me on social media, I'm still active on social media. So you still get to see bits and pieces of me. So my social media tags, my Instagram, my Twitter, they're in the description of every show. And that's if you're watching on YouTube or listening on YouTube, or you're listening on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, with iHeartRadio. Whatever your poison is, the description of the show should have my social media tag. So if you're listening and you're like, hey, where's Tim been? You can go and look at the Instagram and you'll see some activity. I've been involved in a few different things. Just in case you aren't following me on Instagram, and or I am not the only person you're following on Instagram, so you weren't able to see any of my posts, updates, stories, things of that nature. What have I been up to? A lot. So I am currently the presiding officer of my Masonic Lodge. So that pulls me in a lot of different directions. That takes up a lot of my free time. But we've been able to do some cool things. Recently, we were able to... Y'all remember that raffle that I held? It was for charity efforts for my lodge, and we were able to donate a portion of the proceeds from that raffle to the Andrew J. Morrison School in Philadelphia on North 3rd Street. It was dope. The pictures are on my Instagram page. I posted it to my story and to my page, so go and check that out. But that took up a lot of time, energy, and effort. Work has been draining the life out of me, and unfortunately, I can't get too specific because I do have some coworkers, some work friends in quotations, because you never really know how much of a friend a coworker is until you start to connect outside of work, and even more so after you stop working together, because then you'll see if that relationship continues or if it just fizzles out. But work has been a huge thorn in my side. It has been very stressful, very draining, and I would love to talk more about it. I want to be fully transparent. There is nothing that I don't want to say, just not on this podcast. So if you got my number, if you want to hit me up, or if you're a friend of a friend, or if you're just a listener, we haven't really met personally, feel free to hit me up on Patreon or hit me up at the email address, I'll talk if you listen, at hotmail.com, or even shoot me a DM like some of you oftentimes do via Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger, even on Twitter. Shoot me a DM. I have no problem telling you. I'm just not going to say it on this forum, because as far as I'm concerned, if you're a coworker and you're deliberately reaching out to me, like, hey, at that point, like, you reached out to me, but I'm not going to kind of make things public on this platform. But I will say this: work has been extremely challenging. I can go into a little bit of detail, but work has been extremely challenging, and it's been stressing me TF out. And I find that when there are things that are stressing me out, I kind of want to decompress by just playing games, and I also procrastinate. And I'm learning that through a few things that I'm going to talk about in a bit. But I learned that when I'm stressed, I procrastinate. And I kind of want to just, play the game or watch shows on Netflix and get lost in that. And work has been really impacting that. Outside of just workload, is just learning to navigate the social landscape, especially now that you're working remotely, can be really difficult. There are more emails than maybe there would have been normally. There are more meetings, and virtual meetings lose that umph, especially if you have people who are used to being in meetings but aren't used to running meetings, if that makes sense. So oftentimes you'll get like, hey, this is really just like a block of time that was put out. This could have just been an email. Or, hey, I know we want to talk about something, but we don't really have a focused approach, because normally I would have just walked up to your desk or called you on the phone, but because we're virtual, I got to have a meeting, right? And it just makes everything more stressful and much more cumbersome. But there's that. And I took up something new. Now, if you've been watching or following me on Instagram, you know that I've started a new goal, and I'm going to go into thorough detail about that in a second as well. But there's a lot that I can update you all on. The majority of this is going to be, this is what's been going on recently for me, and also to try to build a habit. I think I talked about this before after one of my previous breaks or earlier breaks, where a routine or a habit is really important. And sometimes even when there's nothing to talk about, and again, this might be redundant for some of you, because I know I've definitely said this before. When you fall out of a habit, you fall out of a routine, you don't really realize it, but you get to the point where you start to like procrastinate and you don't really know why. So for me, it's like, I remember it was like a week or two after episode 65. So the latest episode, not counting this one. And I had like a full script, a full page, and I sat down, looked at everything. I'm like, this just doesn't, I don't want to talk about any of this. I feel like I got to fill up time. Y'all know I'm not really big on politics. I'm not really big on too many current events unless it's relevant or I can make an impactful point. So whenever I can't place myself in a topic, and I never want to become that gossip podcast where we're gossiping about certain things or we're talking about things that don't have much substance. And this isn't to knock the people who do, but I don't want to talk about things with no substance. What hair color some celebrity has now, or what dress they decided to do, or what show they're on. That's just not my style. So when it doesn't make sense and I really don't know what to talk about, I go, well, like, I'm not putting anything out there. I don't want to put out crap. Not realizing that I'm doing more harm than good. Because one, I'm robbing you all of content. But two, I'm falling out of my routine, because now one Sunday missed recording is now 2 Sundays missed recording. And it turns into a month, so on and so on. Sometimes it's a guest. A guest bailed on me. And I had a guest lined up. It was going to be perfect. That guest was going to fill a lot of time in the show, and the guest bailed on me. So now, great, what do? I didn't really have much lined up. Or I don't have a guest at all. I never booked one, or I couldn't book one. So you just follow a routine. But what I'm learning through a few other people that I listen to is, even if I don't have anything to talk about, I need to just put stuff out, even if it's little content, even if it's a 30-minute episode. Every episode doesn't have to be 60 minutes long or 60 plus minutes long or close to 60 minutes long. It can be 30 minutes. As long as I'm staying in routine and as long as I'm constantly putting stuff out there, that's kind of what I need to continue to do. So I'm going to try to keep doing that. So I appreciate everybody's patience, and shout out to those of you who reached out to me. That's really, really important to me, to make sure I'm still alive and kicking. For a lot of people who don't have my phone number and who don't see me on a regular basis or hear from me on a regular basis, this podcast is the only form of communication. Even though it's like one-way communication, you're still up to speed on my life. You know what's going on in my personal life. In some cases, you know what's going on in my professional life. You know about my hobbies, my personal goals, and you feel connected. So even if you're like some friends that I have in California or some friends that I have in Georgia, or even if I've never met you, but you are in another part of the world, and you're miles and miles and miles away, or states away, or in some cases countries away, you can still go, hey, if someone had come up to you today and was like, hey, what's Tim up to? You could say, I know for a fact what Tim is up to because I just listened to his latest thing. So it's a way for you to stay connected. And I need to kind of like drill that in my head because it's a way for me to decompress and de-stress. Because I've said it before, when I'm recording these podcasts, in my mind, even though I'm in my office right now, there's nobody in front of me. In my mind, I kind of picture like a theater, and I'm kind of like on stage, or I have a talk show, and I'm on stage, and you all are in the audience, and I'm kind of just talking to you all, and just, this is going to sound really weird. It doesn't feel like a one-way conversation, even though it quite literally is. In a way, it doesn't feel that way. And then when I finally do catch up with you, it'll feel like we can pick up without missing a beat because you've listened. So this is my way of keeping people in the loop too. Because one thing I suck at is out of sight, out of mind. People that I'm used to talking to or people that I see every day, I have no problem keeping in touch with. Like my buddy Chuck. We make it a habit of calling each other. Amanda, my friend Amanda, I see weekly. My buddy Ryan, we're involved in a lot of Masonic stuff together. And we're just friends, so we talk to each other bi-weekly or so. But all of my other friends, my dear, dear, dear close friends, if I don't see them or talk to them on social media, I don't get to talk to them. So it'd be nice to have like a platform like this where you can kind of tune in, get like a quick download, a 60-minute or less download on the goings on, the recent updates and events. You still feel like kind of connected. So I need to do a better job of kind of remaining consistent. It's just so hard, y'all. Like if you're a creator, you know what I'm talking about. If you're just a listener, a part of you is like, well, sit down in front of the mic, record, and you're done. Put it out. Well, I was so hard about that. But if you're a creator, you understand, especially if you're not a full-time creator. It can be really, really difficult. I know there is some opportunity for empathy there, or at least sympathy, where you go like, hey, I got to find a topic. I got to find guests. I got to find backups just in case people fall through the cracks or cancel. I got to stay relevant. Do I want to talk about this? Or, hey, this is a sports podcast, but we've only really been talking about football and basketball. Do I want to bring hockey up? Things of that nature. These things are constantly going in your head. You don't want to seem fake or disingenuous, and you want to stay true to your audience, but you also aren't afraid to grow and change and try new things, and it can create this thing. So I hope you all can just trust me enough and believe me enough when I say just sitting down in front of the mic, hitting record, which I'm able to do tonight because it's been a few months, but just sitting down and hitting record, that's easy. But trying to fill up that time can be challenging and difficult, especially when you do it. There's some people I listen to twice a week. They put out episodes twice a week, like 1 hour-long episode and then like maybe a shorter episode during the week. And luckily, they're busy people, so they can fill up that time. Like, hey, here's what I've been up to. But there have been times I've tuned in and they're like, I don't know what to talk about, y'all. And sometimes I feel that way. And what I got to do is just get behind the mic and just be honest with y'all. Like, look, I just don't know what to talk about. And hopefully it takes me somewhere. But I'm really excited. I'm going to talk about some passions of mine that I'm tapping into. I'm going to tell you guys about what I've been up to recently and just try to dive into there. And we're also going to talk a little bit about J. Cole's album that just dropped because you guys know I'm a huge, huge J. Cole fan. I did the KOD review. I remember that much. And that was pretty successful. So I'm going to give it another stab, give it another shot and see where it goes. But I'm going to take a small break. And then on the other side, we're going to get right into it. Okay, gang. So it's good to be back. So the first thing I want to talk to you all about is this really awesome event that I went to and kind of like what led up to it. So if you have been following me recently, or if you know me personally, You know that, especially since the past year, I've become much more conscious of my blackness and my culture, so to speak. And that's not to say I wasn't aware of it before, but I just tried to take a deeper dive into it. And I tried to um, reach out or make certain investments that support my culture and community if I can help it. But all jokes aside and all other conversations aside, it just makes me feel good to know that I supported something black centric. And I'm sure you get a sense of pride when you do the same thing, especially if it's something that you identify with. So, for example, you may be from a local town or city or suburb, and you go to a local butcher's office, not office, but store, shop, and you feel good. You feel like you're putting money back into the community, and that's kind of like your 2 cents. And I don't think you should let anybody take that away from you. There are a lot of people out here that says your contribution doesn't matter because it's not as good as theirs, or it's not as big or as significant or as loud or as obnoxious as theirs. Everybody has to contribute in their own way. For some people, it might be going to the local butcher shop. For other people, it might be doing street cleanups. For other people, it might be donating $1,000 to a local charity. They have the ends to do that, the ends and means to do that. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad because you going out and cleaning up. Let's be honest. I'm going to say something that most people won't say. Yeah, maybe that doesn't have as big of an impact as a $20,000 donation to some school. I'm not going to sugarcoat things for you. However, it doesn't mean that there's no impact there. You never know who you could be impacting. I remember when I was young hearing about all of the charity initiatives that my father was a part of, and look at me now. And you never know who you could be impacting. A kid, a little girl, a little boy could see you every Saturday morning or once a month out cleaning up the local library or cleaning up the neighborhood or the block or local park or rec center. And that could leave an impression on them. So there's time contributions, there's effort contributions, and there are financial contributions. And one doesn't take away from the other. One doesn't take away from the other. You'll get people out there that try to knock you, but come talk to me. Come talk to me. I can try to keep you grounded if your head gets too big, and or I can tell you maybe some of the things you need to hear, and that can help you feel better about yourself as well. So my contribution is to support Black-owned businesses when I can help it. And being a podcaster, I like to call myself an accidental podcaster, where I had a bunch of thoughts in my head. People said, hey, I have something of value to say. So I decided to get behind a mic and speak. And that can go downhill for some people, especially now where everybody has a voice. And it can go on the internet and be recorded in history as somebody saying something. But that can also be a plus side, because I forget which rapper who said it, but they said the greatest rapper alive is probably stocking groceries. That person probably just never had the opportunity or the means to get their voices heard or voice out there. And I'm an accidental an accidental podcaster where I just had the opportunity to and the means to put something out there, and people just so happen to like it. And I wanted to kind of hone certain skills and traits and just increase my knowledge behind this. You all have heard me said it multiple times that this is one of my passions. There are like 4 main passions that I have, and I would love to make money doing any one of those 4, if not all 4. And one of them is podcasting and entertainment, and eventually like a talk show, like a Tonight Show or late night show or something like that. And I wanted to see what steps I could do to perfect my craft, or what knowledge was out there that could help me increase my own knowledge base or add to my own knowledge base. So there was a Black podcast convention coming up. And you guys know that I like video game and anime conventions, and I also like other seminars. But I never thought about it when it came to podcasting. And one of my guests, actually my most recent guest, Jen Amos, and my manager mentioned a podcast convention. I'm like, I never thought of that. There's conventions for everything. Why didn't I why didn't I think of a podcast convention? So I saw it on Instagram, and it was Black Podfest, and it was in March. I think it was like the first Saturday in March. And I was like, you know what? I want to give this a shot. It's virtual, so I don't have to worry about the expense of buying the ticket and finding lodging and food and things of that nature. And, I don't have to spend money on travel. So I decided, hey, look, it's virtual and it's supporting a Black-focused thing. It's facilitated by black folks. And I'm like, hey, I want to give it a shot. I want to do it. So I purchased a ticket, and it was super dope. I'm so glad I did it. I actually paid the extra money to keep all this stuff so I can rewatch it at any time. I'm so glad I did. The first thing it did is it checked off the box. It made me feel good. This was my contribution back to the Black community, right? But it also made me feel good because I felt like I was investing in myself, and in some cases, reinvesting in myself. And I got so much knowledge, and I got to understand more aspects of the podcasting industry, and it kind of helps the creative juices flow, and you start to brainstorm a little bit more when you're around like-minded individuals or people who have attained certain things that you hope to attain. You see people who are at where you want to be, and it just really gets the creative juices flowing. So I was so happy that I went to that. I was so happy that I got involved in that, and I was really, really excited, and I felt so fulfilled. So if any of you out there have gone to any other podcast convention or some sort of creator convention, if you are a creator, I would love to hear from your experience and learn from your experience, and just kind of like what your observations were, what your feedback were, or feedback is or was. There were some great things. I followed a few people on Instagram as a result, and there's one young lady, I can't think of her name right now. She has her own podcast, and she's basically an Instagram savant. She just teaches you how to do reels and how to engage with your audience better, and I'm so glad I followed her, and I would not have known she existed if she wasn't one of the panelists on that convention. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm looking forward to more. Hopefully there will be one next year, and maybe I can go in person and learn a little bit more. So I'm really, really happy about that and things like that. The one thing that I will say that was a little disappointed about was there was a part where they had like a closing ceremony, like breakout session, basically. And they invited people on to talk about their experience and what they thought and just to solicit any feedback. And I hate when people ask for feedback when they only want nice things to say. They don't want constructive feedback. If you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud too. And it really bothers me when people just can't take constructive criticism. And it bothers me when you can't understand, you can't dissect someone's ignorance. Like, for example, you can have an open house and somebody could come and say, oh man, every open house I went to had food. You don't have any food here. Maybe the next open house you should have food. And you can break down to them, well, hey, did you know that, and this is completely made up. This is not true, but I'm just making this up to prove a point. It's like, hey, did you know that, every realtor gets an open house budget, and depending on what type of realtor they are or the state that they're in will determine what they could spend that budget on. And some states prohibit the purchase of food. Now, you may not know that if all of your open houses have been in Jersey, and now you're in Pennsylvania. So from your perspective, oh man, your open house sucks. You don't have food. Maybe have that next time. It's incumbent upon me to like either just sit back, shut up, and take that criticism because this person's ignorant and doesn't understand that, or B, attempt to educate this person. Like, hey, I appreciate that feedback. Just so you know, I actually couldn't buy food because Pennsylvania doesn't allow it, or blah 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 blah. Again, all this is completely made up. Just trying to prove a point, but that would be helpful. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case with the constructive feedback that the moderator, some of the hosts, got. And this gentleman said something along the lines of, hey, I wish there was a little bit more structure to like panelists. There were some panels that I missed, I couldn't get to, or some didn't start on time, or this or this, that. And unfortunately, and here's where my empathy comes in. Being especially a black woman, because this was the moderator was a black woman. Being a black woman and having to think like, damn, I did so much and it still wasn't enough. Here's this guy, a black man at that, telling me about what I didn't do. And you just think about everything that you did. You know, you put the event together. You had to set the ticket prices. You had to get the panelists. You had to organize so many different things. You're literally working up a sweat. This young woman was sweating on camera. She had to participate in some of the panelists as the moderator. She had to keep the chat engaging and make sure people were asking questions. In some cases, she was fielding questions. In other cases, she was interviewing the panelists while fielding questions. And like, I felt so bad for her. You got this guy coming saying something that you didn't do. I get that. However, I was so disappointed to see her reaction to it, where I wish she would have kind of just gone off screen, cursed the guy out underneath her breath or whatever, and then came back was okay. But her reaction, she kind of rolled her eyes, kind of dismissed the guy. And in the middle of while he was talking, she got up and walked away. And it was really frustrating because first and foremost, you invited this feedback. You asked for it. Even if you don't like it, you got to deal with it. And you don't know, like, this guy's feedback could be out of ignorance. If he's never been to a convention before, if this is the first time he's ever been to something like this, he may not be aware that there could be panels going on at the same time. And it's up to him. It's his responsibility to choose which panel he wants to be a part of. That's why you look at the schedule. Oh, this person's talking at 2:15. This person's talking at 3 o'clock. So I'm either going to miss this panel entirely or I'm only going to be able to catch a portion of it. He may be ignorant to the fact that he's actually lucky because everything's virtual. You can catch 15 minutes of this panel and then leave and be on time for the other one. If you were in person, and I know my friends right now who have been to conventions, and you know the panel that you want to go to is at 2:30 and it's on the other side of the convention hall on the 3rd floor. And then there's this other panel you want to go to that's on the other side of the convention hall on the 2nd floor. And it starts 10 minutes after the panel that you're in ends. You just got to make a sacrifice. Look, I'm just be late or I can't see it. Or I'll just send my friend to go and I'll ask him what his takeaways were. So it was kind of on her to like recognize that this guy's feedback was out of ignorance or lack of consideration. And also you got to realize that like this isn't necessarily her fault, but we all know that there's a stigma and stereotype out there about black men and black women, specifically black women, that they are angry all the time. They always got an attitude, yada, yada, yada. I just hate when there's a response or a reaction that feeds that stereotype when I know this woman put her all into it. This woman, she, like I said, everything that I mentioned earlier, she put the whole thing together. She had to get panelists on board, get a platform, like a media platform. She used Hopin, Hopin. She used Hopin as her media platform, but she had to seek that out. I'm sure there was a cost to that, so she had to do some cost analysis. Okay, how can we get these ticket costs to offset our expenses and all these other things? Like, I felt so bad for her that, unfortunately, people who don't know anything about her, the only thing that they see is her reaction. All they see is her immature reaction in the moment, her emotional reaction in the moment. I felt so bad because it, like, fueled that stereotype that black women, and in some cases black men, have to like constantly defend black women on. Like, hey, not all black women are like this. You can't put this stereotype on them. And I was just so disappointed that like in that moment she kind of fit the description. And it was just so difficult there. And she did so much. So I hope you can hear the inner conflict that I feel. I'm proud of her that she was able to put this event together. It was amazing. It was great. And I can understand this gentleman, let's just call him Bob, because I don't remember his name. I can understand Bob's perspective, especially if he doesn't have much experience with events like this. And I can understand somebody feeling it and thinking that. But from someone who has experience in going to virtual events and someone who has experience going to in-person conventions and in-person events like this, I commend her. She did an excellent job. It was great. Very few technical difficulties, some challenges, but everything was smooth. Logging in was smooth. Everything was smooth. They were very responsive to any issues. She was very present. It wasn't like she just was going the whole event. So I commend her. I'm so proud of her. But I'm also so disappointed that she let her emotion get the best of her in the moment. And she kind of fit a stereotype that we try so hard to protect and shield black women from, that she kind of fell into that category. So I just felt so bad, and so proud at the same time. So I'm another part of me is grateful that I saw that, because we oftentimes don't realize how our reaction looks because we don't perceive our own behavior. So I'm really happy that I saw it, because it kind of made me a little bit more self-aware and more conscious if I found myself in a similar situation. So really, really, really happy about that. Really, really appreciative of that. But what do y'all think? Do y'all think... See, before I ask my question, it's tough to ask questions like this because people automatically want to defend someone that they identify with. People automatically want to defend someone that they relate to or can empathize with. And in a really weird way, they try to put themselves in that person's shoes, and they almost like become that person, and they feel like they're being directly attacked. So they want to defend the person. So I'm just going to ask you, you not knowing this young lady at all, just try to give an objective response. What do you think? Do you think her reaction, you don't see anything wrong with it? You think she just, oh no, she reacted the way she should have reacted? Or do you kind of understand where I'm coming from, where you're like, no, she should have maybe took that off camera. She maybe should have let the guy finish his point, maybe passed it along to another moderator, went off camera, cursed the guy out off camera, and then came back composed and, and continued on with the session. What do you got? What do you all think? I would love to hear your objective, honest feedback on that particular situation. I'd be really curious to hear. That was the only thing I really had going on in March. Nothing really too much happened in April outside of just the normal busy work. But I did make, at the end of April, I made a huge commitment that I'm slowly trying to find my place in and set up a routine, and I'm going to need you all's help. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it right after this. All right. So at the end of April, I made a huge commitment. Now, if anybody who knows me knows I am extremely passionate about training, about learning, and about development, talent development. And I blame a lot of the people who've been in my life, especially professionally in my previous line of work, my previous career, of leaving that impression on me, understanding how important it is to pour whatever value that you've obtained into somebody else. And during my discussions with people that I used to work with and work for, and just hearing how important their experience with me was for their development, kind of let me know, like, hey, this is something I've always been good at, or have gotten to a point where I'm skillful, like, my skill speaks for itself, but it all happened by accident. And you kind of start to get this imposter syndrome where you're like, hey, am I really good at what I do? How do I know? Other than the people who can personally vouch for me, how do I know I'm a good trainer? What evidence can I point to and say, yes, this makes me a good trainer? Because for all intents and purposes, I've kind of earned a bit of a reputation at work where, hey, you're a good trainer. But I had to earn that. But I came into that job as a good trainer. Although I've gotten better, but I came into this job as a good trainer. But nobody there knew that. There was no credential or no spreadsheet, no measurable metric that I could point to and say, I am a competent trainer. Of course, I couldn't have all of my previous coworkers come into the new job with me and be like, yeah, he's a good guy, right? So I did a little bit of research, and I found out there's this talent development or learning and development. There are these certifications out there that you can get through different certifying bodies. And I decided to go with the Association for Talent Development. And it is a certification called the Associate Professional in Talent Development Certification. and then there's the next level after that. So kind of view it as this is the associates, and the level after that's like a bachelor's, so to speak. I forget the name of the level after associate, professional and talent development. I think it's a certified professional and talent development. I think that's what it is. But I decided to go after these certifications to kind of just validate my experience and like validate what I know and just like reaffirm that I belong here. You know, there may be things like you win all of the basketball games in your neighborhood, or you make the best clothes in your neighborhood or city, or you're a really good strategic planner, but if you didn't go to college or anything like that, you don't really have anything that you can point back to and say, I'm good at this, right? So you kind of just go off of reputation and recommendations. I wanted something that proved to myself and others that I belong here. And I decided to go after this certification. Now, I'm really happy that I decided to reinvest in myself and make this commitment. It's going to lead to so much more opportunity, whether that be new career opportunities, whether that be new life opportunities, and whether that be financial opportunities. But more importantly, the more I can learn, the more I can teach others. And that's how I know that I'm meant to be a trainer, or I'm meant to be a mentor. I'm meant to be a talent developer. When I look at this, something like I'm the one paying for this certification. I'm the one paying my time and my money for the study courses, the class courses, the actual exam itself, all these different things. And then even after I get it, the recertifications and all these other things, I'm the one paying for it. I'm the one going through all of that. But I'm excited to get it so I can give it to somebody else. And that's genuine. Like, oh, I can't wait to teach so-and-so this, or I can't wait to go back to work and apply this lesson. That's how I know that this is a sincere ambition for me, a genuine goal for me. And I'm really, really excited for it. Now, with that comes some challenges. And I would really like to get you all's help and some insight and some feedback. So, as an adult, being an adult learner, from a purely psychological standpoint, adults learn differently than children do. Your brain isn't as much of a sponge. Plus, you have so much logic and reason and rationale that blocks learning sometimes, because adults try to rationalize everything, or they try to pull from previous experiences, or they need to know why. Younger kids don't need to get that. Younger kids don't rationalize or add logic to what their lesson is, because they look at it as like, oh, this is just knowledge that I need. How many of us just learn algebra just to learn it? As an adult, we would go like, how can I apply this to, like, how does this solve my current life situation or my current life problems? And also as a kid, you're just like, you don't need to know why. You don't need to know why you're learning something necessarily. So from a psychological standpoint, there's challenges. Now, if you move away from that and you go to me as a person, I'm an adult and I have other responsibilities and, let's face it, other hobbies that I have. You know, I'm in a full-time relationship, emphasis on full-time, and that requires a lot of time, energy, and effort. You don't want the person that you're with to suffer because of the things that you are involved in. I am the presiding officer of my Masonic Lodge, which requires a lot of time. For those of you who may not be fully aware, imagine being like the CEO or like the president of a particular organization. A lot of things fall on you. Even if you delegate some things, a lot of things fall on you as the executive officer of that particular company or organization. You have to dedicate a lot of time, energy, and effort. There's also my de-stressors. You know, I want a beer at the end of a workday and maybe play the game for a few hours at the end of the workday, or just chill out and watch some Netflix at the end of the workday. I want to do that. There's also work. I have to commit to work, and I also have to commit, especially now, to mandatory overtime. So that takes more time out of the time/availability pie. It takes another slice out. There's also a social aspect. You know, I have friends that I care about and that I love, that I want to hang around and be around. So there's that, making time for that. So you go and you ask yourself, with all that in mind, with all of these things that are already thoroughly entrenched into my daily, weekly, and in some cases monthly routines, how do I add a new thing to this routine. Like, how do I do that? So I've been trying to recognize my weaknesses and take advantage of those. And I've been trying to, I know I can't go cold turkey in certain things. Like, just to use a diet as an example, I know I can't cut soda or energy drinks out of my diet completely cold turkey. Just one day say, I'm not doing this anymore. But I know I can commit to like a day. I can say, you know what, every Monday I'm only drinking water. Or, you know what, from now on I'm only having one energy drink a day instead of two. Or, hey, you know what, I'm only having 3 cups of coffee a week. Like, I can do that. I can slowly kind of like ease myself off of whatever vice or whatever habit that is. So, but it's important for me to know what my vices and poor habits are before I can even start to ease myself off of those things. So I know one big thing for me is procrastination, and I learned something really cool about procrastination. And I know that I'm more likely to read on public transportation. Well, I'm not on public transportation right now. I'm working from home, and everything else is within walking distance or virtual. So I'm not going to be on public transportation with an opportunity to read. I also know that for like audiobooks and webinars or podcasts, I can listen to, but I have to be doing like a mindless task. Like, I have to be cleaning up the house, or I have to be going for a walk, or I have to be on my way to like the dentist, or on my way to the grocery store or something like that. Or maybe I'm playing like a puzzle game. I'm playing my game, but it's like a puzzle game. It's not a game that requires too much attention. I can let my mind wander and listen to this podcast or this webinar or this recording, this coursework. So I know I'm not going to read. However, there's some items that only can be read. They aren't in audio or video format. So that's when you go, okay, well, I got to use the bathroom. I got to use the crapper, right? If I go to bed a little bit early, I can spend, 10, 15 minutes reading a few articles or blog posts or some course material before I go to bed. I don't fall asleep right away. Or, maybe during work, I recently got some really good advice from a coworker. Maybe during work when I need to get up and stretch, every now and then I get up and stretch, or I get up and I'll go and sit on the couch in my office just to, stretch my back out and stretch out a little bit, or I'll go out and stand on the balcony, or every now and again, I need to get better with this. I'll go for a walk. I can read during those times and kind of take they're like study snacks almost, where I'm not going for a full study course meal where I got to look at an hour worth of content. I can find, like 5, 10, 15 minutes bits of content that I can read in those moments. It'll really be helpful. It'll really help me out. So I did post something on Instagram, and I did post something on LinkedIn, and I got some advice, some of which I just spoke about. But if any adult learners are out there, you are in school right now, or you're going for a certification right now, or you've recently obtained a higher level of education, whether that's a doctorate or a master's or some sort of certification, please reach out. Please give me your advice. I need all advice that I can get, because I'm trying to find a steady routine, and I try to reward myself in a certain way. Like, hey, if I read this article, or if I read X amount of articles a week or a day, I'll get to have a beer, or I'll get to stay up. I'll get to watch one more episode of whatever show I'm watching, or I'll get to add an extra 30 minutes to an hour of video gaming that night. So I try to trick myself into giving myself these little rewards. But it's still difficult to try to find the time. And here's me being honest. It's difficult to want to find the time. The good news is I paid for this stuff. So I know for a fact that I'm going to get the certification, and I'm going to go through the hoops of getting it because I paid for it. I'm not going to let that money go to waste, especially because it's like an annual thing. So you pay for the exam, but you get a discount if you're a member of the organization. But it costs to be a member of the organization. It's not cheap either. It's like $300. So I looked at it and I was like, okay, well, if I get a discount, about like it's like a $300 discount anyway. So I'm like, hey, if it's $300 to become a member, I get so many more resources. I get study courses, I get micro courses, I get articles, I get blog posts, I get other perks, and I also get a $300 discount. I mean, why not pay for the membership? But here's the thing, it renews every year. So, not that I won't pay again, but I'm going to be on my grind because, like, I don't want this first year to be for nothing. And I paid this $300 for nothing. So, I know I'm going to get to it, and I'm aiming for, like, the November testing window. But you need, like, 28 hours worth of, like, coursework in and a few other things. So, I really need to get on top of it, but I need y'all help. So, anything that I can do to help study, and please, y'all, this is me being honest, and I don't mean to sound like a jerk. Please don't say generic things like, oh, you got to find time to study and make time to study. I know that. Like, this is me telling you that I know that. My question is not like what to do. It's how to do it. How did you find that time to study? How did you keep yourself disciplined? How did you stay on course? And I don't want to knock anybody giving that generic advice like, oh, you just got to find time to study. Or, hey, if you really want it, you'll do it. Like, but that's just so like cookie cutter stuff. That's like, you know, hey, if you want your food to taste good, you got to season it. Like, it's so countless. Like I'm going, oh, I got to season my food. Oh, okay. Like, this isn't me coming at anybody. But, like, I'm just looking for creative solutions or specific solutions. I'm not looking for, like, vague stuff like, oh, I set aside 5 hours a week to study. Yeah, okay, well, how did you do that? What did you do? Did you sat down and looked at the other things that you had to do, or, like, whatever the case may be? So that's kind of what I'm looking for, and I'm hoping you can help me out. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your responses. I'm also going to come onto these shows and share what I've learned. Share what I learned, and I think what that'll do is it'll keep you all engaged and up to speed on like what's been up with me, and it'll also keep my coursework and course material fresh in my mind, so that way I won't forget it. It's at the top of my mind. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. We'll see where that goes. I can't wait to get those letters behind my name, and to basically just reaffirm again that I belong here. I belong on top of the hill. I'm a damn good trainer. I'll bet my next paycheck on that. I feel like I can teach almost anybody almost anything, but I don't have anything other than reputation that proves that. So even if I were to go online right now and apply for another job, they can't. All they got is off my resume, and people pad their resumes all the time, and the resume is the first thing, or the cover letter are some of the first things that recruiters see before they even get the chance to interview you. And even beyond that, let alone get to see what your work habits and ethic and your routine, get to see what all that's like. So I'm just really looking forward to putting those letters behind my name. And I never went to college. I've never completed any other auxiliary courses. So being able to complete this will really boost my confidence and really just help confirm what I already know, or maybe just add more tools to my toolkit. So I'm really excited about it. I want to talk a little bit about J. Cole album, and I'll give you a small update on my Spanish. And I'm going to go into work a little bit, like a tiny bit, like a super tiny bit. I got to be vague. But I'm going to step away, take a quick break. My throat's getting dry, y'all. I'm like clearing my throat. You won't hear it in the final cut because I'm going to edit all of the things out, but I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to get some tea in me, and I'm going to be back right on the other side of this break. Hey, y'all. Okay, we're in the home stretch now. I just want to get y'all up to date. So first things first, I'm going to talk about J. Cole's album. This is not going to be super in-depth. I might do like a video online and do maybe something a little bit more in-depth. But right now, I've listened to it in its entirety, like, I'll say 1.5 times, because I listened to it straight through when I had the opportunity to, and then I've listened to it straight through, but it was like in pieces. Like, I can't listen to an album for the first time or like new music while I'm working because I can't really devote my full attention to the album. So like during downtime at work, and that's downtime in quotation marks, I was able to listen to the first few tracks, and then I had to pause, and then like later on listen to the next few tracks and had to pause, and then listen to the next few tracks and had to pause. So that's why I'm saying 1.5 times. And then like when I try to pick back up, I forget what song I left off at, so I'll just start the album over or something like that. And so I've heard certain songs multiple times, but I've probably only completed like 1.5 full playthroughs. But so right now I need to listen to it more because that's how I am. I'm a very like deep guy. I can't just listen to it once or twice and be like, oh, I got my final decision. Right now, I'll give that album like an 8.5 out of 10. It's like half a point better than KOD right now. And it's just tough for me to appreciate certain formats for Cole. And I'm going to tell you where my gripes come in at, and I'm going to tell you the things that I like so far. So I'm going to start with the gripes first. I don't like the 12 songs. And I know it's really easy for somebody who doesn't have to produce music, somebody who doesn't have to write music, someone who doesn't have to write lyrics, perform lyrics, someone who doesn't have a record label and other artists that they try to do, someone who doesn't have to go on tours, someone who doesn't have other things that they're working on, to just come back and say 12 songs isn't enough. I get that. And that's not to say that if he put out a 30-song album, it'll be good. Sometimes it's quality over quantity, and I get that. But I'm paying the same amount to Spotify every month, regardless of how many songs the album had. And the album's cost is going to be the same amount, regardless of how many songs the album had, with some exceptions. Like if we're talking like a deluxe version or like a double disc, then yeah, it's going to cost more. But for example, if the album was, $13, $14, $15 with 12 songs, it's going to be the same price at 18 songs or at 16 songs. So a part of you just feel gypped. The best way I like to explain it is I'll compare it to a movie. You could go in and watch a 30-minute movie. The movie could be amazing. It could be one of the best movies that you watched of all time. But part of you is going to feel a little gypped that you paid full price. You paid, $16, however much movie tickets cost now, I forget. Let's just say 16. You pay $16 for a movie that was 30 minutes long, and then the following weekend you pay $16 for another movie that was 2 hours long. A part of you're going to feel like a little gyp, especially when all of the other artists that you listen to, or in my example, all of the other movies that you watch, give you more content, and it's just as good, if not better. It makes you feel a little gypped. And that's not entirely fair to Cole, because I'm basically saying I probably would have scored the album higher if it was more than 12 songs. I'm not saying that entirely, but I am saying that a little bit. Or at least I can understand somebody taking it that way. But it's just kind of frustrating. Now, what makes it even more frustrating is the same issue that I had, or rather, not frustrating, disappointing. It's the same disappointment that I had with KOD, where the content was great, but certain songs were really short because you got one verse and like a bridge, or you got one verse and then like a hook, or you got the hook, the verse, and then the hook again. So the song ended up being like less than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And in some cases, not even, because you got the little intro or talking, the beginning of the beat, and then at the end of the beat is the beat like fading out, or just him talking or whatever. So it's really only like probably a little over a minute of actual content. It just makes you feel gypped. It's like, all right, first of all, I got 12 songs. And then for real, I didn't really even get 12 songs. I got like 9.5 because like these other songs are just so short. And I just don't like that because he did that with KOD too, where like a lot of the lyrics were repetitive. Like he started with the hook and tried to, like the hook was somehow a part of the verse. So it's like yada, 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 yada. That's the hook. But it like, he keeps rapping. So it's actually the verse. So the verse starts off with the same lyrics that the hook has. And then he goes into the hook. He's saying it again. And then he has another verse, but that verse is smaller, if there's even another verse. And then he has the hook again. It just makes you feel gypped. It just makes you feel like, dang, bro, you didn't really even give me, like, I waited 3 years for this, man. Like, KOD came out in 2018. I waited 3 years for this. And, like, this is what I get. It's just a little disappointing. Especially when, like, other artists that he's worked with or that are signed to Dreamville come out with albums that have much more content. And then, like, one or two of his songs arguably are, like, interludes. So I'm really getting I'm getting like 7 songs, So it's just really a little disappointing. Now, the stuff that is great is why I rated it as an 8.5. So far, the content is really good. He talks about a lot of things. I really feel a lot of sincerity in just at one minute with a lot of his lyrics. You can tell he's much more conscious of himself. He is aware of his skill, is aware of his talent, but somehow presents it in such a way where it's braggadocious. Like, yeah, he feeling himself, but not in like an arrogant way. It's really weird how he found this like sweet spot of I can brag about myself, but in a humble way. It's like really, really weird. Because I think a lot of times what we do out of fear of coming off as arrogant or self-centered is we kind of downplay our accomplishments because we're like, nah, I don't want people to think I'm full of myself or I'm smelling my own crap or whatever. Or I think my crap don't stink. And he found a way to do that. Like, yeah, man, I'm nice, but it's because like here's the things that I'm pointing back. This is why I'm nice, So I really like that. He also has features where honestly I'm in the middle about. A part of me is like, no, like I want all J. Cole. Because now going back to my previous point, I'm getting even less J. Cole now because you only get one verse and then this other person got a verse. Like there's a song where it's his verse, then there's the hook, and there's the other person's verse. So he only has one verse on this song. So I'm getting even less J. Cole. But on the other end, I like it because it's different because, he primarily doesn't really feature other artists on his songs that like outside of the hook. He doesn't give them verses. So it's nice. And not only is it nice, the people that he actually have on, 21 Savage, Boz, Lil Baby, these are like newer artists, younger artists that aren't as established as maybe some of the other people in the game. And it's like it kind of reminds me of his song Middle Child, where the whole album feels like Middle Child, where he's like, I'm the big homie now. I am Puff. I am Hove. I am, Master P. Like I am the big homie, but not in like history. I'm the big homie stature wise. And I'm taking these other new upcoming artists underneath my wing and I'm trying to groom them and mold them. So it's just nice. It's just really dope to see that. So I did like that. Like I said, love hate. I wanted more Cole. I like the whole no rap features thing, but I also like to see him like changing that a little bit because we all know people get stuck in their ways and they don't want to change and they kind of like, no, this is all I want to do. This is all I'm going to do. After a while, it gets a little old. So it is nice to see him change that up a little bit. The production value is great. The beats there's some boom bap beats that remind you of like the early 2000s kind of feeling, that gritty feeling, that straight hardcore, just hip hop rap feeling. But it also has some soulful samples in there. It has some mellow beats in there, some soulful beats in there. Like the Let Go My Hand is a real soulful beat. It has a very Erykah Badu feel and vibe, Talib Kweli vibe to it. I really like that. But the content of that song is so great. And then when you look at the title of the song, you can kind of relate it to it. It's kind of like, look, when a kid says, let go my hand, like when you're crossing the street or you're walking down the street and the kid's like, let go my hand, like, I don't need this anymore. I'm starting to come into my own. That's what that song like represents for me. Like he's like, I'm coming into my own. I'm established now. I don't need no hand holding. And in fact, I'm reaching my hand out for the artist behind me or up underneath me to hold my hand so I can lead them and guide them. But I don't need you to do that for me anymore. Let go my hand. And I like that. I really do like that. But certain things stepping away from the positive and the things I like for a second. Like, there's a Cameron feature, and I don't want to ruin it for the people who haven't heard the album yet. It's a Cameron feature where he's kind of like just talking. He's not rapping. And I don't think he's credited on the song. Like, I don't think it says with Cameron. But he's on there, and it's just out of place. It just feels like weird. Like, you understand what's happening. You get it. It's kind of like when McDonald's starts selling solids. You go there, and you're like, I get it. You're trying to be more healthy. And I understand what you're doing. Like, I understand. There's a salad. but it's weird that this is here. Like now it's probably second nature. You're used to that, right? But it's like when you saw it, it's kind of like, yeah, this is kind of weird. This being here, it just doesn't fit. You know, it's like Olive Garden selling pizza. It's like, okay, you know, trying to keep that Italian vibe. I guess you want to expand your menu. I get it. This ain't a pizza place. So it was just kind of out of place to me. It didn't really make sense. The lyrics on that song are hard, though. Super hard. Which I guess brings me to my final point. There are no whack songs as far as lyrical content is concerned. And keep in mind that there are no songs that I dislike right now anyway. But you can dislike a song but still appreciate its content. Again, I don't dislike any, but two things can be true. But the lyrical content on all of the songs are just great. I think there's meaning in there for everything. There's one particular song, I can't remember what it is right now. We talked about like he would respect a rapper more who was rapping about living paycheck to paycheck, but still bragging about their skill. Like, why can't you be nice but broke? Like, that can be a thing. You don't have to get behind the mic and say how all this money or all this, you know, all this materialistic things that you have. You know, you don't have to do that. I really like that song. I can't remember what song it is. But again, production value is great. Love to see Boss on there, my boy Boss. I love to see Cole supporting his artists. And again, yeah, I really just like I really like the album. I don't dislike the album. I think it could have been a 9.5. Now, to be fair, I'll probably never. My 9.5 is really like a 10 because I don't think there are like many perfect albums. Like Kendrick Lamar's "Damn," that's a perfect album. That's a 10. That's a solid 10. But like, I want to be clear here. Rating something like a 8, a 8.5, a 9. That's good. That's really, really good. It really, really is really, really good. I don't know where to place it in the rest of his discography. Nothing is going to be better than Born Center. Maybe Friday Night Lights, but like that's debatable because is that an album? Is that a mixtape? You know, and we're talking purely albums, by the way. To all my J. Cole heads out there, we're not talking about any of his mixtapes. But yeah, it's hard to really place it. I'm gonna try to place it here. Let's see. I'd probably go Born Center. 2014 Forest Hills Drive is so good though. All right, so I'm gonna have to do a tier. I can't do a place. I'm gonna have to do a tier list. So tier 1 for J. Cole, top tier, S tier, so to speak. Born Center, Friday Night Lights, and 2014 Forest Hills Drive. A tier, I'm gonna put For Your Eyes Only there. A tier. And B tier I'll put KOD and I'll put KOD and this new one, the Off Season. And Cold World, A Sideline Story. That album grows on you. The album not bad. It's just not Cole. It's industry Cole. When he was just trying to find himself. He just got put on, trying to please the label. Ooh. That could either be B tier or C tier. Cold World. A Sideline Story. But yeah, that's my tier list for now. We could revisit. Like I said, I might do like a little bit more in depth online on like social media or something. And go from there. There was one more thing I wanted to talk to y'all about. I don't remember what it was. What did I say before the break, y'all? That's the downside of taking breaks. It's just like it messes up your flow and like what you was talking about. I said I wanted to rate J. Cole's album. Oh, Work. I wanted to talk about Work. Right. So part of the reason that Work is stressful for me, and like I said, if y'all want more details, especially if I talk to y'all on a regular basis, just call me. Some of y'all already know. I know for a fact the people who already know. But Work has been really stressful because the workload has increased, and I'm learning that there are things about a culture that I should look out for. When I first came into this environment, there were certain things that I was just ignorant of. Now that I'm entrenched in an environment, I'm much more aware of certain things. And all I'm going to say is this: culture is very important. Culture impacts a person's will and drive to work. And culture dictates where many people's effort goes. And I feel like I'm in a tough spot because I feel like I can directly impact the culture, but I feel like there's a lot of time that's going to have to go by before I can change some things that were around for a while. And I don't know if I have that in me. And here's the thing, y'all. I recently had a talk with myself and watched some videos, and I've decided that you need to be the change that you want to see. Sometimes it's really, really difficult where you don't realize, like, hey, it's like that Dark Knight feeling. You know, just to quote Jake Z, it's the Dark Knight feeling. You can, rise and be a hero, or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I was at a point where it's like, I just feel so drained, and the environment just corrupted me, that this is the person I am right now. But I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I can't tell where that tunnel leads, or if it's the same tunnel I'm in now. But I will say that becoming the change that you want to see is so very important, not only just in work, but in other areas of life. And I'm really excited to see where this mindset takes me. And I can't wait to take what I'm learning in my APTD journey and applying it to work, because I think it's going to revitalize some of the things that I'm really, really passionate about. So, again, if you want specifics, reach out to me. I'm not going to say it here, but there are some things going on that I'm currently struggling with, and there are other things that I think I'm at the beginning of, like, overcoming them, but we'll see. But that's it, guys. That's the podcast. Please follow me on Instagram, y'all. There's just some content there I've been posting that I think that y'all would enjoy. And it also gives you guys additional insight. So please, please, please follow me online on Instagram. The Instagram link is below. That said, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate your patience. And trust me, I'll be talking to you very soon. And as always, I'll keep talking if you'll listen. Take care.